Picture this: a crisp Saturday morning, the world still soft with dawn, and you're stepping outside ready for some quiet on your own land, only to find a massive SUV sprawled across your driveway like a lodged boulder. It wasn't simply parked. It was cocked at an angle, purposefully blocking every inch so not a single car, truck, or tractor could get through. That's exactly what met me as I walked out, mug of coffee warming my hands and my stomach dropped. This wasn't an accident. It was a statement. The SUV wasn't a stranger's or some lost delivery van. No, it was Karen's. Karen, the self-declared monarch of the HOA who patrolled our streets with the air of someone who thought every curb belonged to her. For months, she'd been nitpicking. My tractor was unsightly. My lawn wasn't within her imaginary code. My mailbox was the wrong shade. But this was escalation. She'd effectively claimed my driveway as her own parking spot. I told myself maybe there'd been a mix-up, maybe an emergency, but when I bent to pull a note stuck beneath her wiper, my coffee went cold. It said, "You don't use this driveway enough, so I'm borrowing it today. Deal with it." The gall left me momentarily stunned. Who just does that on private property? I scanned the street. Neighbors were already noticing. A few exchanged looks, shaking their heads. Others stood amused, smirking as if savoring the entertainment, waiting for my reaction. Karen wanted a scene. She wanted me to knock and plead for my own space so she could puff up and remind me who she thought ran things. Instead, something unexpected settled over me. Not fury, but a quiet, deliberate calm. I thought about what owning property really meant. I didn't just own a driveway. I owned a tractor. Big, stubborn machinery built to move earth, topple trees, and yes, shift vehicles that had no rightful place. The choice crystallized in my head. If Karen wanted to play territorial, I'd show her what happens when you underestimate someone with land, time, and horsepower. I set my cup down, climbed into the tractor, and started it up. The moment the engine came to life, the whole cul-de-sac seemed to notice. The machine's low rumble rolled down the street, bouncing off trimmed hedges and HOA-approved facades. Curtains twitched, blinds slid aside. Everyone was watching now. Karen's SUV glittered in the sunlight, sitting smug and defiant. I didn't hesitate. Hands locked on the wheel, I fed in some throttle. The tractor lurched forward, thick tires tearing gravel as it advanced. Each heavy inch felt inevitable. A few neighbors spilled onto lawns, phones already raised, whispering, "He can't really be doing that, can he?" Oh, I was. Karen finally stormed out in a bathrobe, arms flailing like someone directing traffic. "Stop right there!" she screamed. "That's a luxury vehicle. You can't touch it." Her voice cracked high and panicked. From the cab, I leaned out, keeping my voice level. "You blocked my driveway, Karen. I'm moving it." Outrage contorted her face. She sputtered that I wouldn't dare. The truth was, I already had. The tractor's forks slid beneath her SUV with an ease that surprised me. Metal protested as the front end lifted. The vehicle's tires hovered a few inches off the pavement. Neighbors gasped. Cameras clicked. Karen looked entirely undone, the color draining from her face. I held the SUV steady for a beat, part theatricality, part savoring the moment. The machine cradled her shiny ride, powerless and exposed. I gave her one last clear option. "Move it yourself, Karen. This is your final warning." But instead of backing down, Karen did what Karen always did. She doubled down. "If you drop that car, I'll have you arrested. You'll never win against me. I am this HOA. That was all the motivation I needed. With a slow, deliberate push, I guided the tractor forward and tipped her SUV toward the ditch that bordered my property. The moment it slid nose first into the mud with a resounding crunch, the neighborhood erupted. Gasps, laughter, and even a few cheers filled the air. The mighty, luxury vehicle that once blocked my driveway now sat slanted and pathetic, half buried in muck, tires spinning helplessly. Karen's scream pierced the morning like shattered glass. She stomped her feet and screeched, "You'll pay for this! You'll regret the day you crossed me!" Me? I simply cut the tractor's engine, climbed down, and strolled back to my coffee. But Karen wasn't done. No, she descended into a full-on meltdown. Standing at the edge of the ditch, her robe whipping in the breeze, she flailed her arms, shrieked, and mashed the gas pedal. Her SUV only sank deeper, its headlights swallowed by the mud. The harder she fought, the worse it got. The neighbors loved every second. Some laughed openly. Others whispered in clusters, phones raised high to record the spectacle. One guy across the street yelled, "Need a tow truck, Karen?" Another added, "Or maybe he can use that tractor again." The sarcasm cut deep, but this time, it wasn't aimed at me. Karen spun, red-faced, jabbing her finger at me like the villain in some soap opera. "This is your fault. You vandalized my property. I'm calling the HOA, the police, the mayor, everyone." I didn't budge. Arms folded, voice steady, I answered, "You parked on my driveway." I removed the problem. Simple as that. That's when the cavalry arrived. Within 20 minutes, 3 HOA board members marched onto the scene, polo shirts tucked neatly, clipboards in hand, looking ready to conduct an inspection. They swarmed Karen, nodding with exaggerated sympathy as she wailed about how I had attacked her car with farm equipment. Greg, the board president, smug as ever, strutted up to me. "This kind of behavior is unacceptable in our community," he declared, puffing his chest. "You can't just use heavy machinery to handle disputes." I raised a brow. "So blocking a homeowner's driveway is acceptable because that's exactly what your star board member here did?" Greg faltered, glancing nervously at the gathering crowd. Neighbors were already murmuring agreement. Karen, sensing her grip slipping, shrieked louder. "He's dangerous! He threatened me! He destroyed my vehicle!" Behind her, the SUV groaned in the ditch, wheels caked in mud, clearly not destroyed, just stuck. But facts had never mattered much to Karen. She thrived on chaos, and right on cue, a police cruiser rolled up, lights flashing. The energy shifted. Neighbors hushed, though their cameras kept rolling. Karen bolted toward the officers like an actress making her entrance. "Arrest him! He tried to kill me!" she sobbed dramatically. One officer frowned, eyes flicking from her to my tractor parked calmly near the barn, then back to me. "Sir, can you explain what happened?" I nodded, steady as ever. "Of course, officer." "Here's the story." The entire neighborhood hushed. Phones pointed. Karen clutched her robe like she was testifying in court. I laid out the facts. She parked on my private driveway, left a note admitting it was intentional, and I simply moved her vehicle with my tractor. I didn't damage it, didn't touch her, didn't raise my voice. I just solved a problem she caused. The officer scribbled on his notepad, then asked, "Do you have this note?" With a smirk, I reached into my pocket and handed it over. There it was in her handwriting. "You don't use this driveway enough, so I'm borrowing it today." "Deal with it." The officer's eyebrows shot up. Neighbors chuckled. Karen lunged forward, shrieking, "That's not mine! He forged it!" But it was too late. The evidence was plain as day. Greg tried one last desperate defense. "Officer, even if that's true, surely using a tractor was excessive. We can handle this internally," but the officer cut him off. "Sir, this is private property. She trespassed and blocked his driveway. Honestly, he showed restraint. Most people would have just called a tow truck. This," he gestured at the SUV half sunk in the ditch, "this is creative, not criminal." The crowd erupted again, laughter louder this time. Even the officer cracked a grin before regaining his serious face. Karen's cheeks burned crimson. She screamed, "You're all against me! This whole neighborhood is ungrateful. I am the HOA." That broke the dam. A neighbor shouted, "Not anymore, you're not." Another chimed in, "Yes, step down already, Karen." Soon chants rose, drowning her out completely. The Queen's crown had toppled right there in the street she thought she ruled. The officer handed the note back to me and nodded. "You're free to go about your day, sir." Then he turned to Karen, still ranting incoherently. "Ma'am, I suggest you call a tow truck and calm down before you dig yourself deeper." And just like that, it was over. Her SUV sat stranded until evening, when a tow truck finally dragged it out like a defeated beast. But the real victory? From that day forward, Karen never blocked my driveway again. So tell me, folks, did I go too far, or was it justified? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this wild HOA Karen tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss the next crazy story coming your way.